fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war.
With those words, President George W. Bush announces that Operation Iraqi Freedom has begun. On March 19, 2003, the United States launched Operation Iraqi Freedom to topple dictator Saddam Hussein from power. The attack began with aerial strikes against military sites, followed the next day by an invasion of southern Iraq by U.S. and British ground troops. Just 21 days later, the rule of Saddam was over as coalition forces captured Baghdad. Saddam Hussein himself was captured on December 13, 2003. However, over time, the quick advances of the first year of the war gave way to a stagnant battle with insurgent forces that lasted for years. In 2010, Carter Holt was deployed to Iraq as a combat engineer. His mission? To find and defeat IEDs. In this interview, he shares what it was like to serve in Iraq, the process for detecting and disarming IEDs, and his own brush with death when an IED exploded.
My job was to clear roads in country and to basically either find contact and to make the roads safer for convoys and the infantry that were behind us.
Okay.
So we went where places nobody really wanted to go.
So let's put you in Iraq then. Let's bring up a map. And so when you came into Iraq and we see the capital of Baghdad there, where were you located here?
I was about an hour to an hour and a half north of Baghdad, where that star is, where the river, it's actually the Euphrates River, hooks a left. That's kind of where I was. I was at Joint Base Balad. It was an air base, second largest airstrip the U.S. controlled. And my job was to make sure all the roads were clear so we can get convoys and goods to all the surrounding bases.
We've got an image of what's called a Husky.
Yes.
And we'll bring up the picture of the Husky now and you can talk to this as you talk about the kind of work you did. It looks like a farm tractor.
It does. It looks like a John Deere tractor, but the teeth up front actually detect IEDs and mines in the ground. And they would send us out first to try to find them in the ground, and if we didn't find them, we'd get blown up in them. And that truck actually saved my life about a month down the road.
Were you always in the same place?
We covered about 1,000 square kilometers, basically 750 miles worth of road. Just imagine Las Vegas, the desert out west, and that's exactly what we were
Temperatures of?
140 degrees was the hottest I've ever got there, and we felt cold on 80-degree weather.
So we saw the Husky, but you also work with something called a Buffalo.
Right. After my event, I guess the best way to describe it, they put me in the Buffalo, and it has a huge arm on it that we actually use to dig up IEDs. And it's about a 55 to 60 ton truck that we would drive right up to the site and would actually dig up the IED. And there's a picture of one there. That's about 60, 80 pound IED that we'd actually found on the way back, and they emplaced that in about 2 hours. About 90% of our patrols, we met contact.
And when you say met contact, that means?
We drove into it.
Okay.
I mean, we had a route, and it was just like driving from your home to school. You knew where you ended up, but it's just you had to get there. And
your specific job on that Buffalo was up in the turret, the gunner
I was
job?
a gunner. Mine was actually remote operated, and it was computer controlled. So basically I spent 7 months playing a video game. The crosshairs is actually where the barrel of my weapon's pointing, and the weapon that I was on could actually reach out and touch an object up to 2 miles away. And then right next to the words where it says safety is actually a gentleman digging up an IED that we'd found, and that's about 50 meters away from our truck. 50 meters is roughly 150 feet plus or minus if you we deal in meters and kilometers over there, so you get used to speaking that language.
We've got some video of a crew doing just that, and we want everybody to have a chance to see this, and then we'll have Carter explain a little bit more about what it's like to search for IEDs.
Due to the increased IED threat in the area, the 720th Explosive Ordnance Disposal Team often travels with the convoys. On this particular day, one platoon is going out to relieve another at the OP. On the way there, a suspicious object is spotted in the road, and the convoy comes to a halt. This is where the EOD team jumps into action.
I think I see something. It might be a rock.
From a safe distance, they deploy the Talon robot to examine the object and determine what it is. After a short inspection, they determined it to be a type of anti-tank mine known as the TC-6. The robot and operator have done their job, and now it's time for Sergeant Berkman to go in for a closer look. He puts on the bomb suit, a heavily armored suit made specifically for dealing with explosives.
The bomb suit's designed to protect me against mostly frag, so I don't get cut to pieces quite as bad.
He walks out to the mine cautiously, inspecting the area before finally approaching it. His soldiers watch anxiously on the monitor through the robot's camera. After a few tense minutes, in an attempt to pull the mine free, the decision is made to blow it in place.
Okay, everybody get back, get down.
Sergeant Berkman places a delayed charge on the mine, giving himself and everyone else a chance to move into a safe position before the mine blows. The job is done, the mine is safely destroyed, and no one is hurt. To the EOD soldiers, it's another day at the office. To the rest of us, it's lives saved and another mine safely taken out of action.
So what we see there, they had an explosives team that would come in, and you had the same. You would have been in the Buffalo, the big vehicle we saw at the turret, and you would have potentially already deployed the shovel, for lack of a better thing to call it, to see what the object is.
To dig it out.
To dig it out.
And then either we take care of it up to a certain size.
Okay.
Anything bigger than that, they get to have fun with it.
And what was it, just an arbitrary decision, or was it based on how much damage that IED could potentially do, or?
Well, it's all based off of, you know, what's around us.
Okay.
If we're in a wide open area, then we can safely dispose of it. But if we're in a city, we try to watch out as much as we can for the civilian population.
Do you have any sense of how many IEDs you exploded?
100 to 120 is our best guess for my platoon.
And were there guys who would be marching with you? Like, did you ever get into firefights where you had to do multiple, like have people use their regular weapons? Their
Oh, absolutely. The safest way to clear route was to have actually people on the ground dismounted that would clear alongside our vehicles. You know, unfortunately, that was the most dangerous part of our job. But, you know, if we didn't have them out, then that means they could get closer to us.
Okay.
And
we've got some video that comes to us from the Department of Defense of another crew dealing with an explosion themselves, of going through an IED. And we don't have that specifically of Carter, but we wanted to give you an idea about the kinds of damage that could have happened in this situation. Then we can do some comparison with Carter's experience. So let's run this footage right now for you.
My name is Kelly Weaver. I'm a specialist.
My name is Specialist Dean Barney from Brockport, New York.
My name is Harry Morris. I'm a second lieutenant, transportation officer, maintenance platoon leader, here with Echo FSC 122 Infantry.
Well, we were on a recovery mission east of Fob Falcon, and we were looking for an alternate route because we had a buffalo that fell into a canal, and we couldn't get it from the angle that we were at.
Going back to that route, we got hit by an IED.
Most of the blunt of the IED, or the blast, took place in this region right here. It flipped the Humvee.
Actually wondering if I fell asleep and rolled into a ditch, but like, no, I know I didn't do that. We hit an ID, but
my gunner was injured, and my driver and myself, luckily, were okay.
CFLT was all right, and he asked me where Specialist Weaver was, and I couldn't see him behind me, so I looked outside and I could see him next to the door.
Initially, we didn't know exactly where the location was of my gunner, so I was a little bit worried there initially. And once I saw that he was, you know, somewhat okay on the outside of the vehicle, but my initial thoughts were that he was underneath the vehicle.
Yeah, we're not completely sure, but we think he got blown out.
I really don't remember much of the blast. It knocked me unconscious.
Well, we crawled out myself and the driver, Specialist Barney, we crawled out from the vehicle and underneath and sent him to Specialist Weaver. And we had help from the Quick Reaction Force that was out there.
I received wounds, shrapnel wounds to the upper thigh, and I also I hit my jaw, and it was swollen out pretty good. They thought it was broken, but I was lucky that it wasn't.
For sure, like definitely, like when you come out here, like you never go out there with the sense that you're going to be hit. You know, it's always the other guy that's going to be hit. But you know, when it really hit home, when it hit us.
When I was in the hospital, Sergeant Major Riley, the 4th Infantry Division Sergeant Major, he came in and he gave me my Purple Heart. And from what I'm told, I'm pending a CAB. I'm proud to serve, and you know what happened. You know, it's a setback, yes, but I don't regret it. You know, I'm still here. I'm still alive. And, you know, I'm proud of that.
Those images and that story we saw there, similar to your experience?
Very similar, except our job is to either find it or get hit by it.
Right, and so when you got hit by it, were you also flipped over? I mean, was it that much force?
It sent my truck 30 feet in the air, and I was in a 16-ton truck, and it actually cut my truck in half.
Oh my.
And I ended up on the side, and I was about good 25, 50 feet away from the blast crater, and the blast crater itself was about 25 feet wide, 20 feet deep, and it took us about 8 hours to fill in.
Because obviously once the blast was there, you had to fill it in because then the guys coming behind you could actually move.
Well, we actually, we reversed and went back because it was getting late, and we'd already been on the road for, at that point, upwards of our second day. And the place we were going was too hot for us, so we actually had to fill in the crater to get the two trucks that are on the other side back to our side. That's so we could all head back together.
Okay. And as I mean, the soldier in that video talks about receiving his Purple Heart. I assume you got a Purple Heart as well for your injury?
Did. And they couldn't have medevac me out because of our area was too hot. When they actually put me in the back of a truck to try to, I don't know, shelter me from what was going on, the truck behind us actually took an RPG and disabled it. So we actually had to take care of my truck and another truck, and it was just too busy of to bring in a medevac type helicopter.
So your goal obviously was to try to avoid, not just for yourself, but for everybody else, that experience that you had and that experience those soldiers had. You wanted to find the IED before it finds anybody else.
Yeah, it was basically the world's largest hunt and find, or hide and go seek. You never know what you'd find, in front of you. You always know what you just passed, and you just don't want to look behind you either. You always hope it goes by fast and you get home quick.